When we think about art and the history of it, what automatically comes to mind personally are themes such as the Renaissance, Rococo, or modern art, like Cubism and Surrealism, just to name a few. However, we do forget the styles and themes in between each era. I'm pretty sure most of us are familiar with Italian artists, along with Baroque art styles. I'm going to be focusing on Spanish Baroque art and see how countries, people, techniques have affected or inspired Spanish Baroque, along with how the themes will affect styles in the future. To understand Spanish Baroque art, we should begin with how Baroque art is characterized and what started it. When hearing the word Baroque, I can assume it means simple, fragile, quiet, or sincere. But in art history, Baroque means the opposite. It means grandeur, sensuous. These are paintings that give tension and bring out different dynamics. It is an Italian word that can describe things to be eccentric or irregular, which is first presented in the early 17th century. This first began as a violent movement which led people and artists to have these strong emotions that would later spark inspiration for them to create paintings in a different style from Renaissance and Manneristic artists. A famous Italian painter, Michelangelo Caravaggio, who was one of the first to get famous for these intense religious artworks. One of his famous paintings, A Calling of St. Matthew. And we can go on about Italian artists, but we want to focus on how Spanish Baroque artists and architectures had their own twists and turns. It was heavily influenced by the France and Italy countries, of course, when it came to architectural aspects. What differed from Spain buildings to Italian is the simple yet organizational layout they had, such as when it came to blueprints, along with using humble materials. And Spanish architecture was more ornamental focus, like decorations such as statues and engravings in the walls. As for Italian architecture, it was more structural derived. When it comes to painting, Spanish artists did focus more on earth tones and colors, which created a more simple yet still a dramatic piece. And finally, to get to the actual Spanish artists of this era, we want to begin with the history and background of this style and theme. It did end with the Inquisition of the Catholic Church that did later on inspire Spanish artists. We look at many paintings that seem almost meaningless, but they do have a grand religious story to it. One of the most famous Spanish and overall well-known artists is Diego Velázquez, and one of his most famous paintings that you may know, which is called Las Meninas, which is pictured on the side of the slide for you, which is quite a controversial piece as it focuses on the composition of illusion and depth when looking at the figures painted, along with the brushwork that brings the room and the image to life. Here we have two more artworks by Velázquez, which are one of his most famous pieces that still focus on terms like tenebrism and chiaroscuro, along with the brushwork of it that fit perfectly with the characteristics of Spanish Baroque art. When speaking on Spanish Baroque art, I really wanted to incorporate an artist who was more light-spoken yet seen for their amazing artwork, introducing the artist Juan Sanchez Cotán, who is one of the well-known for his still life pieces, which are also called bodegones. Bodega is a Spanish term that simply translates to pantry or tavern, and bodegon is a larger size. Still life paintings have been around for centuries, but Cotán brought a new meaning to still lifes, which often were visuals of food, drinks, games, or more figures that are arranged very simply, but painted very detailed on a canvas. Although being so simple, they do bring a visual harmony, and I quote from the website Britannica, which can bring a whole deeper meaning to the image. We have mentioned chiaroscuro, which is displayed in many still life paintings that use highly contrasted highlights and shadows to perform the focus on the images presented. The images shown may seem very incoherent, however, many have analyzed Cotán's and other Spanish Baroque artists to paint these as offerings to the Virgin Mary or even Jesus Christ. Which brings me to the final conclusion of Spanish Baroque artists. Like I've mentioned before, still lifes have been around for many years, but artists like Cotán have brought a new meaning and have left inspiration to feature artists in different areas. For example, we have Impressionism, Surrealism artists such as Frida Kahlo and Van Gogh presented in the slides above. From here on out, we are able to compare older themes and styles to more modern ones. We can tell that they become more colorful, playful, and even more incomprehensible. Overall, Spanish Baroque is just one of the many other art forms and styles that continue to grow over time and inspire different artists from different eras, as it has done with Spanish artists. Thank you so much and take care.